If you are hearing this, it is because I needed my words to exist somewhere outside my head. I am not trying to scare you. I am trying to leave a trail, because the day I understood what was happening, I had 48 hours to vanish. If I had stayed, I do not think I would have survived the week. My name is Adrian Salazar. I worked an office job in the city, Monday through Saturday, rows of desks, screens, and a constant hiss from the air conditioning. The lights were white and flat, the kind that makes everyone look slightly sick. I lived alone in a small apartment a short ride away. My routine was dull in the safest way. Wake up, shower, grab machine coffee, work, go home, eat something simple, sleep. No nightlife, no drama, no mysterious illnesses. Then Valeria Cruz joined our area. She was new, mid-20s, dark hair pulled tight, clean blouse, quiet confidence. She introduced herself with a smile and a notebook already open. "Could you show me the system?" she asked, tapping the edge of my monitor. I walked her through it. She listened with her head tilted like she was catching every syllable. Her pen moved the whole time. I assumed she was taking notes like any new hire. During that first week, she stayed inside the rules. Questions about forms, deadlines, passwords. She thanked me, went back to her desk, wrote more. The sound of her pen blended into the office noise like another machine. If I had known how much of my life would end up inside that notebook, I would have kept my answers short. On the second week, she started bringing things. One morning, she set a paper cup of coffee on my desk. There were two, and she nudged one toward me. "They gave me the wrong order," she said. "I am going to waste it." I accepted, because refusing felt rude. The coffee smelled normal, but after a few sips my tongue tasted faintly metallic, like I had bitten a coin. I blamed the machine. The next day it was a sweet bread, then a chocolate bar. Each gift came with the same excuse: bought too much. Someone gave it to her. It will go bad. Kindness in an office is contagious, so I let it reach me. The first time she brought a full meal, it came in a plastic container, still warm, rice and chicken. The kind of home food that makes your stomach rise with gratitude. She placed it near my keyboard without touching anything else, careful and precise. "My mom cooks too much," she said. "You are always eating street food. Eat something real." I should have said no. I said thanks. We ate in the break area with vending machines rattling and microwaves beeping. Valeria watched me take the first bite, as if she needed to see it happen. The taste was fine, even good. 10 minutes later, my head felt heavy, like my skull had been filled with wet sand. A band of pressure tightened around my temples. "You look pale," she said softly. "Probably the lights," I answered. "The office lights are brutal." She smiled, then wrote something in her notebook anyway. After that, her questions moved from friendly to personal. "Do you live close? Do you live alone? Does your family visit you? Which colonia? What street? What time do you leave work?" I told myself she was just trying to make conversation, trying to fit in. When she asked my birthday, she laughed and said she wanted to know my sign. I gave her the date. She wrote it down slowly, pressing hard enough to dent the paper. "Must be peaceful," she said when I mentioned I lived alone. "You are lucky." That night I slept for 10 hours and woke up exhausted. At work, the letters on my screen swam for half a second before settling. I blamed stress, then caffeine, then the weather. A bad explanation is still comforting when it keeps the world logical. Valeria kept offering food. Sometimes she handed it to me. Sometimes she left it on my desk with a neat note that said eat. I started refusing. "I already ate," I lied. "Take it for later," she insisted. "It is a shame to throw away food." Her voice stayed sweet, but her eyes stopped being soft. A smile can be a delivery system, and hers started feeling like packaging. The dreams began like static. In the first one, I was still in the office after everyone left. The desks were empty, but Valeria sat at hers with her notebook open, writing without looking up. The air conditioning sounded louder than it ever did in real life, like a breath held too long. I woke up sweating, told myself it was anxiety, and went back to sleep. A few days later, I opened my desk drawer and found a napkin folded too carefully to be trash. I did not remember bringing it. When I unfolded it, my full name was written over and over, rotated in different directions, like someone trying to trap the letters in a knot. My stomach tightened. I crumpled it and threw it away. When I looked up, Valeria was watching me from her desk. She did not smile. Her notebook was open, and her pen rested on the page as if she had been waiting for me to notice. That night, alone in my apartment, I heard a faint scratching sound in the dark, steady, patient, like a pen moving across paper. The next morning I told myself I had imagined the sound. The city makes noises, pipes shift, neighbors drag chairs. A sensible explanation is easy to dismiss, which is why I clung to it. At the office, Valeria greeted me like nothing happened. Her voice was light, her smile practiced. She set a container of food on the edge of my desk and walked away without waiting for my answer. The lid clicked softly as it cooled. The smell of garlic and oil drifted into my space, warm and inviting, and my mouth watered before my brain could protest. I pushed it aside untouched. 20 minutes later, my stomach cramped anyway, as if my body expected a command and punished me for refusing. By the end of that week, the pattern was hard to ignore. On days I ate something she brought, my head tightened, my eyes felt dry, my limbs dragged like wet clothes. On days I bought food outside, I still felt tired, but I could think. It was not proof, it was coincidence. That was my last logical shield. Valeria noticed my refusals. She never raised her voice, never snapped. But her kindness became sharp at the edges. "You are being stubborn," she said once, leaning on the side of my cubicle. "I only want you to feel better." Feel better sounded like an order. I started watching her without meaning to. The notebook was always there, sometimes closed, but never far from her hand. When coworkers asked her questions, she answered, then wrote. When she spoke to me, she wrote more. She asked again about my family, as if checking that nothing had changed. She asked what time I got home. She asked if anyone visited me. She asked if I had a girlfriend. "No," I said, and something like satisfaction flickered across her face before she smoothed it away. That weekend I slept late and woke up with my tongue tasting like metal again. I ran the tap, drank water, and it tasted clean for 2 gulps. Then the metallic aftertaste returned, faint but undeniable. I bought bottled water, told myself my building pipes were old. In the mirror, my eyes looked a little more sunken than they should have. Monday, I found a small piece of paper in my cubicle, tucked under my mousepad. It was not a work note, it was my name again, written once in the center, but with tiny marks around it, dots and short lines like someone had started a design and stopped. The handwriting matched Valeria's neat, tight letters. I stared at it until my palms sweated. I took it to the bathroom and flushed it. Watching the paper spin away gave me a small, stupid relief, like I had won a tiny fight. Back at my desk, Valeria glanced up at me, then down at her notebook. Her pen moved. That afternoon, I walked past her desk and saw something that made the office feel suddenly smaller. A printed photo of me lay on her desktop, half covered by a stack of files. It was a photo from my social media. A casual shot from a weekend walk, the kind of thing nobody should have bothered printing. The paper was cut so my face was centered, clean and deliberate. I stopped. "Valeria," I said, keeping my voice low. "Why do you have that?" She looked at me with a grin that was almost playful. "I printed it for fun. You have an interesting face." I waited for her to laugh and tear it up. Instead, she slid it under the files like she was putting away something private. I walked back to my seat with my neck buzzing. After that, I stopped posting online. I deleted old photos, changed my privacy settings, and still I felt exposed, like the picture had not been printed from the internet but peeled from my skin. The office felt less like a workplace and more like a room where someone kept inventory of me. That night the dreams returned, heavier. I dreamed the office was empty again. My desk was covered in open food containers, napkins, plastic forks, as if a feast had been set for someone who never arrived. Valeria stood beside her chair, notebook open. Behind her, the shadows of other women sat in a ring, faces turned toward me. I could not see their eyes, but I felt them. The smell of warm food filled the dream, thick enough to choke on. I woke up gagging and ran to the sink. Nothing came out. My throat burned anyway. The next day's blurred. I reread emails twice because words slipped away. I forgot small tasks and had to check my list like an old man. I began to dread lunchtime, not because of hunger, but because it felt like the room itself was watching to see what I chose. Valeria started taking phone calls in the hallway. She spoke softly, almost swallowed by the white noise of the vents. I did not mean to listen. I caught pieces anyway. "Almost ready," This week, he is tired. Do not let him leave. The last phrase hit me like a slap. I sat back in my chair and stared at my screen until the letters dissolved. I decided to look for proof that did not live in my head. That was my mistake, because proof is also a door. Near the end of the day, I reached into my desk drawer for an old folder. My fingers touched plastic that was not mine. I pushed deeper and found something wedged at the very back, behind things I had not moved in months. A small nylon bag wrapped tight in tape. I held it in my hand and listened. Inside, something shifted with a dry, gritty sound, like salt rubbing against dirt. The tape was layered, messy, urgent, as if whoever sealed it did not want air to touch what was inside. My breath shortened. My mouth tasted like metal again. I did not open it at work. I did not even look at it too long. I slid it into my backpack and forced myself to finish the day. When I stood to leave, I felt Valeria's eyes on me. I did not turn around. On the bus ride home, every stop felt too slow. I kept my backpack clutched on my lap, like it contained a live animal. The city outside the window looked normal. Street vendors, headlights, people laughing, and that normality made the fear worse. Horror is easier when the world agrees with it. In my apartment, I locked the door twice and set the bag on my table. I stared at it for a long time without touching it. The scratching sound from the night before seemed to rise from the plastic itself. I was about to throw it into the trash chute, to pretend I had never seen it, when my phone vibrated. Unknown number, 1 message, 2 words, no T-Vias, do not leave. I stared until the screen dimmed. Then I understood that whatever was happening had noticed my fear, and fear had been noted like everything else. I did not sleep. I sat with the bag on the table, my phone face down, lights on in every room. I replayed Valeria's smile, her questions, the note that said eat, the napkin with my name. I tried to build a logical story from it, but logic kept collapsing into the same shape. Someone had been collecting pieces of me. When the sun finally pushed thin light through the blinds, I called my aunt. In my family, everyone calls her Tia Norma, because she is older than my mother and speaks like she has already seen what you are about to do. She answered on the second ring. You sound sick, she said before I could explain. I told her everything without pausing, afraid that if I stopped, courage would drain out of me. The gifts, the questions, the dreams, the paper with my name, the printed photo, the message on my phone, and now the taped bag from my drawer. There was silence on the line, then a slow inhale. Do not open it with your bare hands, she said. Put it in another bag, and do not go back to that office today. I am coming. 2 hours later, she arrived at my apartment with a canvas tote and a face that did not hold jokes. She looked at me like she was checking how much of me was still here. She did not ask permission. She pulled on thin gloves, lifted the taped bag with the same care you use for broken glass, and placed it inside a larger plastic bag. Then she sat at my table and pointed at my chair. Sit. Breathe. Tell me again from the start. As I repeated it, slower this time, Tia Norma nodded at certain details like she had expected them. When I mentioned my birthday, she clicked her tongue. You gave her your date, she said. People give away keys and call it conversation. I asked her what she thought it was. She did not soften her words. It is brujeria, she said. A Traba show, not to make you fall in love. To make you weak. To dry you out so you stop fighting. Dry you out sounded impossible. And yet my body felt like a cloth wrung too many times. Tia Norma had a name for the kind of woman who cleans this. A curandera who did not advertise, who did not hang neon signs, who did not promise miracles to strangers, someone you reached only by being sent. She told me we were going now, because waiting is how these things tighten. We took a taxi into an older neighborhood with narrow streets and crowded houses. Her home looked ordinary, a metal gate and a small window. But when the door opened, a smell rolled out, coffee and something bitter like burned leaves. Dona Stella met us in the entryway. She was older, hair pulled back, hands clean and steady. Her eyes moved over me like I was a page she already knew how to read. You are not sick, the way doctors mean, she said. Something is riding you. My throat tightened. Tia Norma set the bag on the table. Dona Estella did not flinch. She opened the outer bag, then peeled at the tape with a small knife, never letting it touch her skin. When she finally pulled the nylon open, the smell hit first. Damp earth, sharp salt, a faint sweetness underneath that made my stomach turn. She tilted the contents onto a ceramic dish, dark soil, clumps that stuck together, coarse salt that glittered in the light, folded slips of paper, red and black thread tied in knots, so tight they looked painful, a small cutout photo, only my face, dirty around the edges, and a scrap of fabric, blue and familiar. I knew it immediately. It was from a work shirt I owned, one I had found torn at the hem months ago. I had blamed the washing machine. Now I was staring at the missing piece, stained, used. Donna Estella tapped the papers with one finger and unfolded one. My name, my full name. Again and again, pressed into the page like someone wanted the ink to sink into whatever was underneath it. She looked at me. Whoever did this has been close enough to learn your routines, she said. Close enough to take something from you. Close enough to feed you. A curse can arrive in a lunch container, she added quietly like a proverb. I asked her if it was Valeria. Tia Norma answered for her. He is getting messages, she said. Do not leave. Donna Estella nodded once. She is not alone. Donna Estella said, this work smells like a group. A circle of women who meet, who share, who finish what one starts. The word circle made my skin prickle. I remembered the dream table, the silhouettes, the hands. Donna Estella dragged a chair into the center of the room and told me to sit. She lit a white candle and held it close enough that I could feel heat on my face. She moved the flame around my head, down my neck, across my chest, as if outlining my body with light. She whispered prayers under her breath. Some sounded like Spanish, some like older words that did not belong to the city. She burned a bundle of herbs over a coal until smoke rose, thick and harsh. The smell invaded my nose and eyes, sharp enough to make tears spill. Close your eyes, she said. Breathe slow. Do not hold anything inside. Then she took an egg, warmed it between her palms, and rolled it across my forehead, down my face, and over my throat. When she pressed it against my chest, my stomach clenched hard, my mouth filled with saliva, my hands gripped the chair. The room tilted slightly, as if the floor were a boat. Donna Estella did not stop. Out she commanded, her voice calm but firm. Out of him, the nausea rose like a wave. Tia Norma shoved a bucket between my knees. I bent forward and vomited a thick, foul liquid that burned my throat and made my eyes water. The smell was sour, almost rotten, and it did not feel like normal sickness. It felt like something leaving. When I finished, my chest loosened by a fraction. My breathing deepened. The relief was small but real, and it made me angry, because it meant the rest had been real too. Donna Estella cracked the egg into a glass of water and studied it. Her mouth tightened. You are not clean yet, she said. It has been fed. It is awake. She looked at Tia Norma, then back at me. If you keep seeing her every day, she will keep feeding it, she said. Food, words, hair, photos. She already has your date. She already has your name. The office is a place of open drawers and unattended cups. It is easy to plant things there. What do? I asked. Do not confront her, Donna Estella said. Confrontation is another thread. You cut threads by leaving them no end to hold. She told me to go home, rest, drink simple tea, eat only what I prepared myself, and return if symptoms surged. Then she said the thing that turned my fear into a plan. You will have to cut contact completely, she said. Change your number, change your work. If you can, change your city. That night I slept for the first time in weeks without the table dream. In the morning my head still ached, but it was not as crushing. The small improvement tempted me to believe the cleaning had fixed everything, but when I stepped into the office, the air felt heavy again, and my stomach tightened as if it recognized the place. Valeria greeted me with that same friendly tone, like we were old friends. Where were you yesterday? She asked. I worried. I told her I had a stomach bug. She tilted her head, studying me. You should eat, she said. You look empty. Empty, the word landed like a fingerprint. I spent the day acting normal, but my eyes kept sliding to her notebook. In the afternoon her phone buzzed and she walked into the hallway. I followed at a distance, in the corridor, under the vent that rattled. Her voice was a whisper. This week, she said. Next meeting, he is tired. Just do not let him leave. My nails dug into my palm. I backed away before she turned. After work, I made a decision that could have gotten me hurt. I followed her. She left with a large knotted bag and walked fast. I stayed across the street and followed her onto a bus. She got off in a neighborhood I did not recognize. The streets were narrower, the streetlights weaker, the shadows deeper between buildings. She walked into an alley and stopped at a plain house with a metal gate. A wind chime clinked softly above the door. She knocked. The gate opened. Another woman greeted her and let her in without hesitation. A second woman arrived minutes later carrying a bag of her own. Then, another. They moved like this was scheduled. From where I stood, I caught a thread of smell in the air. The same bitter herb smoke from Donna Estela's house. My throat tightened. In my mind, I saw the circle from my dreams, not as a symbol, but as a real room, filled with real people. I turned and walked away without running, because running draws attention. My legs trembled anyway. That night I wrote my resignation. I kept it simple, professional, boring. I claimed a better opportunity in another city. I printed it at a corner papal area and signed it with a steady hand that did not feel like mine. The next day, I cleaned my desk as if I were leaving a normal job. I gathered pens, chargers, folders. I checked every drawer twice. At the very bottom, beneath a stack of old forms, I found a tiny folded paper I had never seen. It was not taped. It was not hidden well. It was waiting. Inside, my name was written one time, not repeated, centered like a final stamp. Under it, in Valeria's tight handwriting, 2 words sat like a lock clicking shut. Yatet and go. I have you. I did not go back to my desk after reading that paper. I folded it, put it in my wallet like a piece of shrapnel, and walked straight to human resources, with my resignation in my hand. My mouth was dry, but my steps were steady. The office smelled like toner and warm plastic, the normal scent of work, and that normality felt like a mask stretched over something hungry. They asked polite questions. I gave polite answers. Opportunity in another city, family reasons. Anything that did not sound insane. Nobody stopped me. Nobody warned me. Nobody said they had seen Valeria slip things into drawers or copy photos or stare too long. People ignore what they cannot explain. Silence is how an office protects itself. At the end of the day, I left without saying goodbye. I did not pass Valeria's desk. I did not look for her in the hallway. I felt, with a certainty that made my teeth ache, that if I met her eyes one more time, I would give her a new thread to hold. That night I packed only clothes and documents, bought a prepaid phone, and cut every contact I could without explaining why. I did not leave a trail. Before sunrise, I was on a bus heading out of the city, watching streetlights fade behind me. I expected a wave of panic, a sense that I had overreacted. Instead, I felt something simpler, like unclenching a fist I had forgotten I was making. Fear does not always scream. Sometimes it whispers directions. In the new city, I stayed with a cousin for a week, then rented a small room. I found another office job because I did not know how to be anything else. The first days were shaky. I kept waiting for the pressure in my skull to return, for the metallic taste to coat my tongue, for the dreams to rebuild their table. They did not right away. My appetite came back. My sleep deepened. The color returned to my face as if someone had turned a dial slowly. But the relief did not erase what I had learned. It only changed the shape of my caution. A new coworker offered me homemade cookies on my first Friday. I declined with a smile. I wanted to explain, but explanations are invitations. I began checking drawers before I used them. I wiped my desk at the end of the day. I stopped leaving my water bottle unattended. I stopped telling people where I lived. When someone asked my birthday, I joked and changed the subject. Privacy stopped being a preference. It became a lock. Tia Norma called to check on me. She said Donna Estela had warned her that circles like that do not always stop when the target runs. Sometimes they simply look for the next open door. She told me a rule I repeat to myself now, like a prayer. Never accept what you did not ask for. It is a simple sentence, but it carries a life inside it. Months passed, and my body held steady, but some nights I still woke listening for a sound, like a pen scratching in the dark. Last week, at my new job, I opened my bottom drawer to get a stack of envelopes. The drawer had been empty the day before. Inside, on top of the envelopes, sat a single wrapped candy, small and bright against the dull paper. I picked it up and froze. On the wrapper, printed in tiny letters, was a question in Spanish. Comes? You want to eat? I looked around. Nobody was watching. The office sounded normal. Keys clicking, a printer starting up, someone laughing near the coffee machine. My throat tightened anyway. I have never told anyone in this city where I came from. I put the candy back, closed the drawer, and felt the old lesson rise in my chest like cold water. If you think this cannot happen to you because you live in a different country or a different life, that is exactly how it gets in. It does not need your belief. It only needs your habits. So if someone at work offers you food you did not ask for, and your instincts whisper, no, listen. Do not be polite. Do not be brave. Be alive.